Welcome to It's All About the Questions, where learning to ask the right questions can help you achieve lifelong success. Now, here to help you ask all the right questions is award-winning author, international speaker, and business strategist, Laura Steward.
Good morning, afternoon, and evening, everyone. And in case you didn't catch that, I said good morning, afternoon, and evening, everyone. And I'm sitting here trying to set my clock up so I know what time it is. Today is an unusual show for me, and it's later than usual. For those of you who are live streaming this, watching me in the various platforms that I live stream using Restream.io. Normally, I go live at 11 a.m. Eastern, and today I'm going live at 11:50 a.m. Eastern. I have no guest set up for today, and I delayed things because a friend needed some help with something. So rather than just keep to my schedule, I said the beauty of me doing this show and not being on broadcast anymore is that I get to set the time. And since I didn't have a guest, I was able to help out my friend and take care of some things that needed to be taken care of. And that to me is the joy of why I do this show. And if anybody wants to put anything in the chats, you can. I can see them with Restream.io and I can answer your questions. So what I'm going to be doing on today's show, and for those of you listening on podcast, if you have any questions that you want to ask, please feel free to send them to me at laura@laurasteward.com or reach out on social media. And I am happy to do another show or respond to you directly to answer the questions. So what I'm doing today is I'm going to answer a whole bunch of questions that have been coming into me from now that I often answer directly, but I thought I would share my answers to those and also allow anybody listening live to ask me any question that you want. And if you like these, I'm going to do these on a regular basis as well. So one of the biggest questions I get all the time is, Laura, where do you get your guests from on the show? We love your guests. And where do you meet all these people? And, I guess the best answer to that is that these are people I've met along the way of my life, or that other people I've met along the way in my life have introduced me to. And for whatever reason, through a book I've read of theirs, through a conversation I've had with them, these are people that change my perspective, that get me thinking of things in a different way. They're people that I feel can help you, my fans, my listeners, shift your perspectives. And I just totally love that. And, sometimes I get people that pitch to me. And I've had several guests like that. I was honored to be an icon of influence in Steve Olsher's Virtual New Media Summit. And one of my roles as an icon of influence at Virtual New Media Summit was to listen to people pitch to top podcasters and to give them some feedback on their pitches. Well, I listened to a lot of pitches over the course of a couple of days, and there were several people that I had to have on my show based on their pitches to me. So occasionally they will come from random conversations. I've had people on my show that I've met in grocery stores, that I've met in airports. Remember, I've been doing this for 7 years now, 6 years with It's All About the Questions, and 1 year prior on another show I had called Entrepreneur Masterclass. So that's where my guests come from. And then if you want to know how I prepare, I read every book of every guest that's on my show. I read it cover to cover. I highlight, I tag, I take lots of notes. So, and then I ask for their bio, their headshot. I do a ton of research. If it's somebody I know, it makes it a lot easier. If it's somebody that I sort of know, I'm still doing that research. I want to understand the person, and my goal for the show is to help you see the essence of these people in addition to getting new ways of thinking about things. So those are two questions that come out around the show. And now I want to talk about some other questions that keep coming up around my ear issues. People want to know how I'm dealing with the fact that I have something called Tullio syndrome and hyperacusis. Basically, what that means is sound-induced vertigo or sound-induced disequilibrium. Hyperacusis, think of it, I'm showing my age, it's a bionic ear, like Jamie Summers. She, after her injury, she had an ear, and the $1 Million Man, that could hear so much input going on that she had to learn how to re-listen to things. And then the Tullio, the sound-induced vertigo, means the sound of my own voice can trigger these symptoms where I feel like the inside of my head is being bashed around to my skull. And it can create panic attacks. It can make me want to black out, throw up, all sorts of different symptoms that come on. And the way I do the show is I have access to tons of earplugs. I can control my environment for echo, for sound. When my guests are on the show, I test with them their microphones and their echoes in their room. And if they can't fix it, then I need them to come back on a different day, because I have to protect my ability to function and to do my show and to live out there in the world. People have said that they can't imagine not being able to listen to music. Well, for 3 years now, I've not been able to listen to music. I mostly watch TV with closed captioning. I've had to not travel. COVID, to me, I don't know about you guys. I know I keep hearing people say all the time that for them, COVID was the worst thing that ever happened to them, in terms of they like being out there in the world and now they're stuck at home. For me, COVID was like, oh, now everybody else knows what it's like, because I was stuck at home for 2 years prior to COVID. Couldn't even really drive a car because the sound of the wheels on the road made it too difficult. But one of the things I've learned through that, and with the help of my friends, is another level of resiliency. And something called, it's okay to not do something. The old FOMO, fear of missing out. Well, Clubhouse, huge thing. I tried to do Clubhouse and I was able to do it actually for quite a bit of time because I could control kind of the sound levels. But then as more and more rooms started creating and more people got involved, I found that I couldn't get involved with Clubhouse anymore because there were too many different voices with different tones, different ways of speaking, different cadences, and their sound wasn't always great, right? Because they're interacting in Clubhouse from their car or from some public space or outdoors somewhere where there's all these other noises. And for me, that can completely shut me down. So I'm having to learn how to do those things and be okay with not participating. I've had opportunities to do some speaking gigs that I've had to turn down. Friends want to go to restaurants even before COVID. I can't go to restaurants. It's impossible for me with all of the echoes. So I've had to learn how to just accept whatever limitations I have right now, but push through, which is why I'm so glad that every week I've still been able to do the show. Now, sometimes during the show, I am really struggling. And a few friends who've listened to the show regularly go, oh, you were having a hard time during that show. And I'm like, what gave me away? And they said, well, you seem to be thinking a lot more in between things that somebody said. And if I looked at your eyes, they looked like you kind of spaced out for a minute. Those kind of things used to really upset me. And I'm sure that for a number of you out there, when somebody points out when you're not at your best, it can make you feel even more self-conscious. Well, I've learned over the years, including one time when I literally fell on stage and was flat on my back, that I need to let that go because I'm doing the best I can. And all of you, my listeners out there, are doing the best you can as well. And please feel free to make any comments in the chat. I am watching it in case you want to ask any questions. So what I'm saying is, for me, I'm actually now starting to feel more FOMO now that the world is re-entering than I did during COVID, because now people are going back out there and they're like, hey, Laura, we'll come back out, because they've kind of forgot that I've got this chronic thing and I don't know how to fix it. So if I don't know how to fix it, I have to learn how to go around it, as my dad always said. So that, I hope, answers that question. And then I love this one, this whole, Laura, how do you deal with fear of stopping yourself? I'm going to be totally honest with you. I am doing horribly at dealing with my fear of stopping with myself. The FOMO, okay, I can deal with that. But this fear of, I can't put myself forward, I can't book a speaking gig, or I can't do something because I might have a problem. I've made a decision now that I'm just going to go back out. I'm going to book myself to any virtual speaking gigs that are out there for people that want me. And I'm going to figure out a way to do them no matter what. And I don't know what that's going to look like, but I hope whoever books me, that they will understand that. It's through a lot of my friends that I'm realizing that I've stopped myself a lot. But I have, as you will probably see, I'm going to reach over here into my storage thing. I have bags of different kinds of earplugs. I have all sorts of things that I am hoping to use that will allow me to do what I need to do. And I'm going to start taking on one-to-one coaching clients and stop giving away everything for free, because that's what I was doing. I was giving everything away for free. And that leads to another question that keeps coming up from a lot of my listeners. I keep giving myself away for free. Laura, what's your advice to start charging for all this advice? And I'd have to say that confidence is the biggest thing you can do for yourself, and that I've learned. I still have a lot of value, even though my ear is so annoying and so frustrating. And I'm just going to take less on, but I'm going to commit to do the things I need to do. And I've actually worked with some clients throughout all of this, where I do this 100-day mentoring one-on-one. And there have been some days I was supposed to have a session with somebody, and my ear was so bad that I literally sat in my house with earplugs in and headphones on, and just was in as much silence as I possibly could. I turned off phones, everything that I could. And I reached out to the client because I set the expectation, remember this, setting expectation, that there may be times that I can't make an appointment. And as long as I know you're okay with that, I'm willing to take you on as a client. And I've had to do that several times, or I've had to tell them, can you speak quieter on the Zoom or on the phone? Because sometimes you can't get your volume as low as you'd like to. And it's worked out. So I guess what I'm trying to say is, for me, I think the best way I can break through this fear of stopping myself is by resetting my own expectations and being really clear with whoever I'm working with, to say to them, here's what's going on with me. I am happy to do your event. This is what may happen, and this is what I need from you. And I did an event a few months ago where I moderated a panel of 3 amazing people virtually. And when I set up the expectations, it was, can you please make sure that the feed that comes into me is at the lowest level possible? And I was able to get through it. I had moments where it was really, really brutal. And then for the next 3 days, I had to go into complete and total silence because of everything that had happened. So mindset, big part of it. not willpower, because you can't power your way through a number of different things that are going in your life. But what you can do is set expectations for yourself and be clear with others with what you need from them as well in order to help you get through. And I know setting expectations can be really, really hard in your life because you don't want to disappoint anybody. But if you don't set expectations, I've often found that there's a lot more disappointment from everybody on every side of the equation, because invariably somebody feels like they didn't get what they wanted. So be really clear about your expectations. And I encourage you to be really clear with your own personal expectations of yourself, and perhaps let go a few things that you just need to let go of. My friend Kendra Lee, Marlene Chisholm have been really big with reminding me of those things. That, okay, Laura, you can't do this, but maybe you can do that. And I've been writing more. I've been doing a lot more things that enable me to still be out there. Not the way I would like to, though. And I can't travel. I can't be with a lot of people because of the noise level. But I'm learning how to adjust. Not the way I would like to, because I don't know if this will ever be fixed. And it's really, really hard because I'd love to go visit my aunt and uncle who are 94 in Long Island, who I love dearly, and I can't get there. I just can't drive there. I can't fly there. So all I can do is talk on the phone, on speakerphone, and put the volume as low as I possibly can. And I'd love to talk to her every day, but I can't always do that. Sometimes I need to go in silence. So learning to readjust your own internal compass, your own internal expectations can help you not feel depressed or shut down when you're going through that. And as my friend and multi-time guest on the show, Dr. Joan Rosenberg, would say to you, those times when the fear feels overwhelming, or you feel really depressed or sad, or like you just can't figure out how to go on, let those feelings wash through you. Don't let them stay in them. For 90 seconds, let them just wash through you and get past the heightened emotion so that you can then look at them from an outside, perhaps, perspective and say, is this really true? This reaction that I'm having, is it more than it really needed to be? What else might be going on with it? And those are a big key to how I've been dealing with the fear. But I do know that I have stopped doing many, many things other than this show. And I'm going to try to figure out a way to get back into living in some other way, but I'm not sure how to do that yet. But I am going to start accepting coaching clients again and putting myself out there with some other things and setting my expectations of them. Okay, so I've answered a ton of questions in the last 18 minutes. And one of the other questions that I get asked very often is, why do questions matter? And why do I care so much about the questions? I guess the best way I can describe this to you, other than what I wrote in my book, What Would a Wise Woman Do? Questions to ask along the way, or that I've talked about on this show, is I want you to think about this. How many times do you ask questions to get the answers that you want versus the answers that you need? Think about that. The best way to know if you're asking questions to get the answers you want is to think about how many times you've asked different people the same question. You got a whole bunch of answers and you were like, yeah, no. So you just kept asking it until somebody gave you this answer and you're like, yes, exactly. That's exactly what I was talking about. That's asking questions to get the answers that you want. Imagine what your life would look like if you ask questions to get the answers that you need, the ones that make you a little uncomfortable, But you know that if you follow along there, or as us geeks say, click on that and explore that, what it may do to help you move forward. And it's also important to ask those questions of the right people, which is why I created the show, because you may not know people that can give you new perspectives on things, or that are experts in their field on a number of the topics I've had people on this show. So learning to ask the right questions, meaning the questions that expand versus contract your world, the questions that sort of almost obliterate you in your thinking, that give you goosebumps when you think about asking a person that question. Those are why I love questions so much, and why, as you know, is one of my absolute favorite questions. If you go to laurasteward.com and subscribe on my website, you can get a workbook that will take you through my favorite why exercise, some goal setting exercises to make sure that these exercises, your goals are your goals versus goals that other people have helped you set. I gave a speech a few years ago before the whole ear thing happened, and it was a group of women. I think there were about 50, 70 people in the room. And I talked about the power of questions, kind of consider it my TED talk on questions. 2 women came up to me crying after it was all over, because I had them do an exercise live in this workshop that I did on setting their goals. And I asked several questions in the exercise, and that's in that workbook, by the way, that you can get for free at laurasteward.com. And they came up to me and I'm like, what's going on? I don't like making people cry, but I tend to be known as the speaker or the coach who makes people cry. And it's because, as I've been told, I connect you to who you really are. But I don't do that. You do that yourself, because I'm asking you questions that help you see who you are. Anyway, these 2 women came up to me and they said, we just realized we're in careers that we never wanted to go into. And I went, what do you mean? Well, one woman was a lawyer, Harvard-trained lawyer, worked for a huge firm, and she'd been doing it for a lot of years. And when she went through this exercise, she realized that she only became a lawyer because that's what everybody in her family did, and there was an expectation that she would become a lawyer. But that's not what she wanted to do. And she was now finally going to explore and think about what she wanted to do for herself. The other person was in finance. They were with Wall Street, doing lots of things on Wall Street, high finance, venture capital, private equity, not venture capital, sorry, and doing all of this hedge fund stuff. And they realized they hated it, but it's what they felt they needed to do because they had family members in it. And they had been told it would be a highly lucrative career. This person really just wanted to be a teacher. And last I heard, both of them are having incredible new careers, doing what they wanted to do. And the experiences that they had in the financial world and the legal world have helped them along the way. So even if you were headed in one direction and pivoted to another because it feels more you, more right, know that all of those choices you made along your way still mean something. And they mean something to me. So I would love for you to share what's going on in your life and how I might be able to help. And if you have any other questions that I might be able to answer for you, I wrote down just a bunch on my notes of some of the most common questions that people keep asking me. And if you'd love to see me do some more Q&A, I am happy to do that, especially since I'm live streaming the shows, so you can type in anything that you would like to type in. So thank you, everybody, for joining me today for this very, very different show that I've never done before. And I really hope that you have a great day. And remember, the right questions can change your life.
You've been listening to It's All About the Questions, starring Laura Steward. Connect with Laura at it'sallaboutthequestions.com and download a free workbook that will help you ask better questions starting today.